Hi, I'm Julian Frost N3GF with Ham Radio Outlet, and in this video I'll be talking with Steve Brightman, KI5ENW from SDRplay, about a new product they've recently introduced, the nRSP-ST. I'm here with Steve Brightman of SDRplay. Hi, Steve.
Thank you, Julian. And may I take this opportunity to wish you a very happy new year, and also to all of our viewers on this video.
Yes, Happy New Year to you, Steve. So unless you've been living under a rock for the last few years, you've most likely heard of SDR, Software Defined Radio. And if you're a ham radio operator, you've most likely heard of SDRplay and their line of SDR receivers, which currently include the RSP-1B, RSP-DX, RSP-DX-R2, and the RSP Duo. All of these are known to be top-of-the-line SDR receivers. I know SDRplay has released a new receiver that you're really proud of. So, Steve, can you tell us about it?
Yes, indeed. Right at the end of last year, we introduced our latest product. This is it, the nRSP-ST, which is a new class of product for us. It's actually a networked receiver. And the way we've positioned this is that it is for your own personal networked connection, either within your home network or when you're away from home. It allows you full access to the receiver functions, things such as band switching, antenna selection, and so on. And from wherever you're located, you have full control over the receiver as if it was just plugged into the PC next to you. And one of the key things here is it has a built-in host computer, so you don't need to plug it into a computer. You just need to connect it to your home network. Let's have a look inside the box. First up, you'll notice there's an instruction leaflet, which gives you a brief introduction to the device and also gives you a reference to the website where you can get full detailed instructions as well as download the software. Next, we have the nRSP itself. It's in a large metal box, about twice the size of previous RSPs. The front panel just has a couple of LEDs, a green power light and a yellow network light. On the back, you have your antenna connections. You have the ability to connect up to 3 antennas. You can add an external reference, and then for networking, you have a choice of either Ethernet or Wi-Fi. So next up in the box, you will find we provide a Wi-Fi antenna. The preferred connection to allow for maximum bandwidth, full IQ, and all that good stuff is to use the Ethernet connection. And indeed, you'll need to use Ethernet to set up the device initially, but subsequently, after setting it up, you can just move it to a Wi-Fi system. So I recommend you connect the antenna to the device. The main reason being, even if you're not going to use Wi-Fi, if you don't connect it, the chances are it's going to get lost, and when you need it later, you won't be able to find it. So we have the antenna. We also, within the box, we provide a power supply. The power supply that comes with it is universal. It has a selection of adapters in there. So I've got the US adapter on here right now, but there are additional adapters for use in various countries around the world, and it is universal voltage, so anywhere from like 110 to 240, that kind of thing. And on the end of the power supply is a USB-C connector. So that's what's in the box.
That looks really great. Can you tell us how to set it up?
Sure. First, let's look at the hardware setup. The device itself, being a network receiver, has been designed very much for unattended use in a location that may not be readily accessible to you. So there is circuitry built in to ensure that if the power goes out, for example, the device will reboot and come back online without any user intervention. And it doesn't really matter whether it's just located in the next room or in a shack at the end of your yard or even on a mountain 50 miles away. You don't want to have to constantly go out and be rebooting the thing and getting it set up again. So the actual hardware setup is very simple. On the back of the device, the first thing you'll want to do is connect an antenna. So we have a choice of 3 inputs. The antenna I have here happens to have a BNC on it. So I'm going to connect it to antenna C. Secondly, you need a network connection. So I'm going to plug in an Ethernet cable to the network connection on the back. And then finally, what you'll need to do is connect the power. So we plug in the power. If we look at the front, we'll see a green LED that indicates power is on. The yellow LED indicates the network status. And at least initially, it will glow yellow. As it begins to establish a connection, it will flash. And then once it's actually connected to your network, the yellow light will go off completely. Just like that. The next step is to download the software. And we've set up a dedicated nRSP-ST start page on our website where you can download the necessary software, and it also contains full instructions on how to get up and running. So I'm going to go full screen and show you how the website looks. Okay, here we are at the SDRplay.com homepage, and you'll see over on the right there is a link specifically for the nRSP-ST. So we can click on that and get through to the nRSP page. Here you'll see some information about the nRSP, and there is a special start page linked to down here. We can go to that. And then the first thing we notice at the top of the page is that we have download buttons for the various operating systems. Now this will download SDR Connect, but also some additional programs. So it's important that you do the download from this page and not from the SDR Connect page. Once you perform the download, you will actually get 3 programs. You will get the SDR Connect software, the latest version. You will get a program called nRSP Updater, which can be used for updating the firmware. And thirdly, you will get the nRSP Administrator tool, which lets you set up various parameters for how you want the server to be accessed. So again, it's very important that you download the software from this page. Also on this page, you will see full instructions, and you can also download a PDF file if you want to print it out and follow along from that. Now that we've downloaded the software, all we need to do is start SDR Connect in the usual way. If you're on a Mac, when the program starts up, it will automatically detect the nRSP on your network. You see it shown up here in the device drop-down. In fact, you'll actually see 3 instances of it, and these refer to the amount of bandwidth needed to send data across your network link. The best is full IQ. And if you select full IQ, what that does is it takes the raw IQ data stream, sends it from the server over the network to your client, and that's where all the processing is done. We recommend you use a gigabit Ethernet connection for full IQ. Second up is IQ Lite. Now IQ Lite applies some mild compression to the IQ data stream, but again, the actual processing is done within the client itself. And then thirdly, we have the compact mode. And what compact mode does is it does the demodulation at the server end and sends the demodulated audio as an MP3 data stream. It also encodes the visual, RF spectrum and waterfall display and sends that in compressed form over the data link as well. What this means is you can actually come in across the internet and get pretty good performance levels with data rates as low as just 300 kilobits per second. So let's fire it up and see what we see. If you happen to have been a SDR Connect user already, The first thing you'll notice is the display is incredibly familiar. In fact, it's identical to what you've seen before when hooked up to a local RSP. A few differences are you will see if you're the first user and a control icon. And what that means is you're the first user, so you have full control over the hardware. So you can control sample rates, you can control antenna selection. All the hardware features of the device are accessible to you just as it would be if you had an RSP connected into your local computer. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, you can also change bands, and the experience is exactly the same as when you're using a local RSP. There's a new icon here for network information, and what this does is it tells you the link speed from your nRSP to your local network. In my case, I'm using a gigabit Ethernet link. Wi-Fi link quality, since I'm using Ethernet, there's no Wi-Fi connection, but if you were using Wi-Fi, you would see the link quality of that, and also some information about who may be connected to your nRSP. Other than that, it looks exactly the same as using SDR Connect with any other nRSP plugged into your PC. So as you can see, the setup is pretty straightforward. The hardware setup is minimal, and if you've already been using SDR Connect, you have a very familiar interface. In fact, you won't be able to tell the difference on a local network between connecting to an nRSP remotely or a regular RSP just plugged into your host PC. So that's how easy it is. Back to you, Julian.
That looks like a pretty easy setup. Okay, so now we've got the nRSP-ST set up and networked. What can we do with it? I understand you can connect it remotely also?
Yes, indeed. As I showed you just now, it's possible to connect to the nRSP remotely on your own network, but there are a few other tricks in store. One of the most exciting ones is if you happen to own a tablet, I have an iPad here, I can access the nRSP-ST using a web browser, which is pretty cool. And up here on up the top, there is a little hand icon. And let me turn this around while I click on it real quick. And when I do the hand icon, you will see there are some touch controls show up on the lower half of the screen that enable you to tune back and forth much more easily. At a pinch, you can even do this on a phone, although you're really pinched for real estate on a display that small. But this is on an iPad. You can also do it on an Android tablet. Basically, any device that has a web browser, you can point it to the nRSP. In my case, I'm on my local network, so I'm just using its local IP address. But it doesn't have to be just on your local network. You can actually access your nRSP from anywhere. There are a few more steps to go through to do that. And the simplest way to do that is to set up port forwarding. And there are two ports you need to open up. One for access via the web browser, which would typically be port 9000. And secondly, from a SDR Connect client running anywhere, you would open up port 50,000. And like I say, port forwarding is very straightforward. Some people are worried about the security aspects of it. I've not had any personal problems, but if that's of concern to you, there are other ways, including setting up your own VPN server so that people can only access you remotely. There's a few other things that I'd like to show you very quickly when you are opening up your device to users coming in from outside your local network. This is the nRSP admin tool I mentioned previously. When you open it up, you get some device status information. But what I think is really interesting is your control over the streaming. Firstly, you can either allow anybody with the correct address to come in and access your nRSP, or you can require authentication. What authentication does for you is it allows you to specify users. You can add as many users as you like. You can give them a username and a password. And you can limit how long they can remain connected to your nRSP, and you can also specify an idle timeout limit. And you'll see here that you have the option, if someone connects, if they don't do anything for a certain period of time, say 5 minutes, then you automatically disconnect them. Alternatively, if you're sharing with a bunch of friends, you may not want the first guy to come in and hold control over your nRSP for a long period of time, so you may want to set a session time limit of, say, 10 minutes. And then finally, you can also allow which of the communication modes I described previously, and whether or not to allow multiple virtual receivers to be set up. So lots of cool stuff there. You also have a recording schedule option, and you can set this up to make recordings from the nRSP to another storage device on your local network. If you have a network attached storage or a NAS, you can make recordings to that remotely, and you can set that up from anywhere, and then you can play back those recordings later. So lots of good information here that you can use, accessible via the admin tool, which is included with the software you download. So as you can see, there's a lot of flexibility in how you set up your nRSP-ST server. And I'll tell you what, I've already opened up some port forwarding through my router, and I have a dynamic DNS hostname set up. So Julian, why don't you try and connect from your end?
Okay, I've done a fresh installation of SDR Connect from your website, Steve, and everything is at its default settings, except for the network settings, which I've changed per the instructions you gave me earlier. Let's fire it up and connect to your nRSP-ST and see what I can hear from your nRSP-ST and antenna system in Colorado. First, I'll turn on the connection. Let's try 15 meters SSB. I can tune to a station just by clicking on it, and fine-tune using the mouse wheel.
The amplifier, as you guessed there, running a Powstar LA1K.
I can change the volume here.
It's an end-fed, 130-foot long end-fed wire. One end's about 60 feet up in a tree, and it slopes pretty vertically down to the feed point. Back over to you, Dick.
Well, it's a nice combination. It's working very, very nicely, Corey, and can't expect a whole lot more. Well, I feel bad I mentioned it.
And again, I can click directly on a frequency, like the 15 meter FT8 frequency. Let's jump to 17 meters and see what's there. I'll tune this station in.
Supposed to work 80 through floors. I don't have any height on the doggone thing, except the feed point may be about 30 feet. Don't have any big trees here, and I'm on a small lot here in Florida. And if you ever been down this way, these houses are not very far apart. My real estate is 100 feet deep and 75 feet wide, so pretty tricky getting long antennas up. Well, that's about the size of the
Nice signal there.
85 by 95. Mass. Got 4 towers on it.
Okay, let's try some commercial broadcast stations in Colorado.
Yeah, you're out there in Maricopa County, right? Oh, yeah. I'm out here where they don't...
I'll try local FM stations.
Y el consejero dijo, entiendo cómo se siente la soledad y tiene mucho.
And now some AM stations.
He's so excited. You can see how excited he is. And he's dancing, and it's hysterical.
And that's being proven by the executive orders. All right, let's start with J6. that should be built into the rent?
Now, I didn't use any of the filters or other special features built into SDR Connect, but Steve, I've got to say, this is pretty cool. Where can our viewers find more information?
Yes, the best source for information is to go to the nRSP page that I showed previously. Again, just go to the SDRplay.com homepage and click on the link labeled nRSP. And just before I go, I'd like to try and give you a bit of context about the use cases for the nRSP-ST. It's very much your own personal network receiver. I know there are other web-based SDR systems out there. WebSDR would be one, called WebSDR, Kiwi SDR, and so on. The difference is, while those are primarily concerned with sharing your particular SDR receiver with multiple other users, which is fine. And indeed, if you have an RSP, you can sign up to one of those services and let other people come in and have access to your receiver. But pretty much in all those cases, what happens is any remote user is kind of constrained by which antenna you selected for the receiver and which band is selected. So you're somewhat limited in terms of what you can do, but it's a great resource. And, they do what they do very well. What we've tried to do with the nRSP-ST is very much make it a personal network receiver. And by that, what I mean is, you may have it down in the basement somewhere, and you may want to sit in the living room and see the signals you can receive on your iPad or your Android tablet. But you also have full control. You have as much control over the receiver as if it was plugged into a PC you're sitting in front of. So you can select antennas, you can change bands. You have full control. Alternatively, you may have a shack in a shed down at the bottom of your yard where all your antennas are mounted, and you don't want to go trudging across through the snow. I say that here in Colorado, we're expecting more snow and frigid temperatures this weekend. Well, it's kind of nice that I don't have to trudge out to the shack when, in fact, I can just sit in front of a nice warm fire with my iPad and have the same capabilities. Alternatively, if you're away from home and you go to Hamcation in Florida, for example, or Hamvention in Dayton, and you want to check on what's happening back home, again, you can come in over the internet and have full control over the receiver as if you're sitting there right next to it. So very much the emphasis here is on your personal use, but at the same time, you can share that receiver with your friends. Set up some users with passwords and let them come in and check out what's going on at your end. Make it a sort of ham radio social networking event, if you will. So hopefully that kind of puts it into context compared to some of the other solutions out there. And as always, thank you for people listening to me rambling on. And thank you, Julian, for hosting me for this video. And I'll turn it back to you. 73.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Steve. Just as a reminder, you can purchase the nRSP-ST and all the other RSP software-defined radio receivers at Ham Radio Outlet. Look in the video description for links to the SDRplay products. See you on the next one, Steve. He is Steve Brightman, KI5ENW from SDRplay, and for Ham Radio Outlet, I'm Julian Frost, N3JF 73.